All right, peeps, what's up? It's your boy Donnie the Dreamer, and welcome to the Pop Culture Academy podcast. Joining me today is my co-host,
Dr. X.
and
DJ BJ. Are we all doing like the low, close to the mic thing? Right, like this?
I mean,
Yeah.
I could get that with this.
It could be an ASMR.
you know, get real sensual, like
Pop
get
Culture
real
Academy
close.
After
You know,
dark.
yeah, there you go. You know,
Yeah.
it's for the grown and sexy, if you know what I mean.
Podcast just got weird.
Oh, that's cool. They like it. It's cool. But yeah, today we are reviewing Dceased, the DC mega event series that took place last year into this year, I believe.
I
Yeah.
think like 2019.
Yeah, it was like 2019.
Was it 2019?
Yes, it was 2019.
It was, all right,
Also,
well,
you say mega event, but like, I
Mhm.
mean, not a follower of DC Comics, but my understanding is that
mhm.
there's no like repercussions to the larger DC. Like this exists in its own bubble. It seems like.
Well, it's more like it's an alternate sort of deal.
Yeah.
And DC is known to have like multiple events running like simultaneously. Like for example, I think around the same time, and even in the book, there is like promotion for like the Dark Knight's Metal, which was like
Yeah. Well,
that was like a whole thing as
in,
well.
in all fairness, I would label it
Mhm.
itself like a bubble world, a bubble
Yeah.
event, because
Mhm.
it doesn't have any type of major repercussions, much
Not
like
right.
the dark metal.
Well, so
Okay.
with Dark Knight's Metal,
Mhm.
that did have certain repercussions because it
Well,
led
Dark
That's
to,
like main
Yeah.
continuity. DC,
Right.
Yeah,
This-
but Dark
this
Knight's
is not.
Metal,
Yeah,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is not.
This is more like
Yeah.
I don't want to call it an Elseworlds thing because it kind of like diminishes a little bit, but it's sort of like that a little bit, you know, it's in that sort of vein. Where
But it's not
yeah.
like what we talked about last time,
Mhm.
which was Heroes
Reborn,
Reborn,
which-
which was definitely an Earth 616 main Marvel continuity event.
Right.
Even though by the end of it, it doesn't make
Well, yeah.
it doesn't make any difference in the world, in the larger world anyway. But
Yeah. No, this one is definitely one of those that's like a one-off story, but it doesn't diminish
Right,
at all the
absolutely.
quality.
no, for sure.
But yeah, this is a story that came about, that happened. It's an event that happened in the DC, in one of the many DC universes,
Right.
and it kind of capped off. It can very much continue from there, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's one of those things that they can put a cap on if need be.
Right. Right. You know.
Yeah. And so we're going to be talking about the main series here,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, the
Mhm.
main series.
six inch. Jesus Christ.
Like
Wow.
we said, this is
It's really pop culture academy after dark.
yeah, this is
Six
the Grown and Sexy
issue-
podcast.
6-issue main series, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
then there is another 7-issue sequel to it,
Right.
which we may mention, but it's not really the main focus of this because it
Correct.
does really continue. I mean, it is like a direct sequel,
Mhm.
picks up where this left off,
Right.
kind of. So
So I wanted to throw it out there,
Mhm.
not to boast or brag, but I did recommend this. So
You did.
most of my recommendations,
you were 2 for 2, honestly,
Yeah.
for me, for my taste. You're 2 for 2.
Lovecraft and DC. So
Yeah.
you know, I have very good taste.
Mhm.
Well, you know, but in all fairness, I came about this comic
Mhm.
because I was speaking with Donnie the Dreamer beforehand.
Yeah.
He was like throwing me a bunch of comics and giving me a bunch of recommendations. And this is
Recommended
something
reading.
Yeah, this is something that I came about on the store, on the DC comic store through the app. That's a nice segue plug there.
hmm
So for a sponsorship.
DC
But-
sponsor us, please.
but anyway, when I read it, I was just like, wow, this is something that's like gory, something that's like out of the ordinary. And you know from recommending Lovecraft Country, I love something that's like off cuff, out of the ordinary, and a bit gory in nature. And it's kind of no holds barred.
Absolutely.
The writers spared no expense, and I think that this story gave them free reign to like to write the characters how they want, and
Spoilers ahead, by the way.
yeah, this is a spoiler review, so there is some deaths
hmm
in this comic series,
Yeah.
some major ones. So
Yeah. So I'm not a DC guy. I only know very surface level stuff. Superman's backstory, Batman's backstory, Wonder Woman's backstory. Never read any Wonder Woman comics. Never read any Superman comics.
I recommend a few.
I have read some Batman, but really more like the Frank Miller Batman stuff, from the 80s.
Okay, the gritty stuff.
Yeah, the gritty stuff. That because I was really into the Dark Knight movies.
Oh yeah, those were great.
Okay.
Yeah, but so I'm coming to this fresh as can be. I don't know who Tom Taylor, who's the author of this, is. I'm not familiar with his work at all. Besides this,
yeah,
and I loved it. And generally, I'm also not a fan of I think there's an edgy cliche kind of thing that happens. How we're gonna start a story, we're gonna kill a beloved character.
Right.
That's how we're gonna start the story.
The shock value.
Yeah, and I don't like it if it doesn't make sense for the story.
Right.
But this is just basically a zombie story.
Right.
Right. To summarize, basically, Darkseid, who I know nothing about, except I guess it's not really explained in here. I guess he's just a god.
Yeah, he's one of the new gods, which is
Which gods in comics are in DC and Marvel comics, gods are not really gods. They're just beings from another planet that are strong.
Right.
So, but regardless, so Darkseid is trying to unlock what
the anti-life equation.
The anti-life equation. He has half of it, and he finds out that Cyborg has half of it. You're gonna have to excuse me.
No.
With my throat clearing from time to time. And so he puts it together, but he miscalculates how he thinks he can handle it, and he can't. So he's the first major casualty of the series, and he's a villain, so whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then basically the virus spreads like wildfire because it spreads both digitally and through human-to-human contact. So if you look at a screen at all, you get it. And it spreads like wildfire, so everybody essentially gets it, and they become what they call the unliving, or the anti-living, right? They're not dead. They still have to be killed in order to be dead and not be a threat anymore.
Right.
But they're basically zombified. This virus just makes them want to kill life. That's what it does. It's anti-life. Yeah.
And it's the way it happens, the setup of it, because it starts off in the heat of the battle, Justice League versus Darkseid. Nothing out of the ordinary, but it's this heated battle where, like you said, he has half of the anti-life equation, which is Darkseid's thing.
Yeah, that's his MacGuffin.
That's his purpose in DC Comics.
Outside of this too, he's into the anti-life equation.
Yeah, right. There's always been his thing.
Got you.
Okay. He feels like he can control all life.
Yeah, it's almost like Thanos going after the stones and trying to wipe out all life. That's Darkseid's purpose.
Well,
and he finds out that this anti-life equation is it's kind of corrupted, the equation itself.
Right.
When combined together, when he gets the other half of it from Cyborg. And
by the way, in this illustration, he looks a little bit like Thanos too.
Well, yeah, Thanos is actually based off of Darkseid.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll come to find out that a lot of characters.
Oh no, I see that just reading even the 6-issue series. I definitely see that.
Yeah.
But if you go on to read the comic, and you will see that you can't put it lightly when you said he's taken out. He
man,
when the anti-life equation gets a hold of you, and Darkseid is almost omnipotent. He is him being taken out is the equivalent or the same feeling that people would get seeing the Hulk being beaten up in the beginning of Infinity War. It's almost like that. So he's taken out.
Shock value.
It's wow. What is the rest of the population of the universe itself? And you see him ripping his face, clawing at his face because the anti-life equation is so potent. Basically, it's something that the mind cannot comprehend
Right.
that you have to claw it out of your head, basically. And you see that recurring throughout the universe, that people who come in contact with any monitors or screens or is scratched or bitten by the unliving or the infected.
So, when we talked about Heroes Reborn last week, I mentioned that I hated how fast everything happened.
Right.
Because it kind of made everything that happened not matter.
Right.
So, like, in one of the first issues of Heroes Reborn, what's his name? Hyperion, right?
Yeah, Hyperion.
He just kills the Hulk. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's him that kills the Hulk.
Yeah, it's him.
Just straight up kills the Hulk. And it doesn't even matter. I mean, like, we talked a little bit about it, but in the grand scheme of that, it's just like shock value. Look how different this universe is, kind of thing. Right. And it didn't serve the story, but here every kind of death serves the story. And also every big superhero that dies and stuff, there's like a real moment of like loss. Yeah, that's despair. Acknowledged. And like, it really, I want to kind of read more of Tom Taylor's stuff now because he manages he balances like the wisecracking comedy bits, like from like Green Arrow, who's always like cracking jokes. Yep. And then he has the gore and the violence, right? Right. But then he also has like these really touching moments that he balances the stuff out with. Right. Which is great. Like, first big spoiler, maybe not first big spoiler, but Batman is basically one of the first heroes to go down, to die, right? Yeah. He figures out what the virus does and lets everybody know, and then he also figures out that he's seen a screen that he doesn't really have long. Right, right. And by the way...
and he's also, not only that, he's also bitten by Dick Grayson, who's also infected prior. So,
he had to deal with both Nightwing and Tim Drake's Robin, and it was like a really, really sad moment because it was like the Bat family essentially, who was this like very close-knit group of superheroes who have come together and worked together for years, and like he could do nothing to save them. And
but there's a real touching moment, where Damian Wayne, Bruce Wayne's son, finds out, that his father's been infected.
That part was so hard.
There's that part, the first touching part, and then later on in the series, Damian Wayne is talking to John Kent. Oh my God. Jesus. John Kent. And they have like an exchange, and then there's just like a beat, and John tells Damian, man, you're going to make a really good Batman. And it hits so hard. Like you're reading, like all you're seeing is like blood everywhere. Right. But then you have like, the story never forgets the emotional core of this. Right. Which is, I think, something that is really easy to do in zombie stories. Absolutely. Really, it's like, hey, let's have fun with the zombies, more than it's like, hey, like these are people that we're killing, and these used to be our friends and family. Right. So I think that's a great part of the story. And the other thing that I really liked about this, hopefully the last thing I say about this, I think, is that I'm not so familiar with everybody's powers. Like I'll be honest, I didn't even know who half the characters were, half the superheroes and stuff. Right. That get infected or that fight on the side of the Justice League. And especially there's a little spin-off called Deceased Unkillables, which focuses on a group of villains. So I really had no idea who any of those villains were, except Bane is in that group. Yeah. He's the only one I knew.
Yeah, he was like the only mainstream, well, with the exception of Cheetah, who was just in Wonder Woman 84. So right. But
we won't talk about that.
So, but I could tell. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. I think I'm gonna sneeze.
Oh, okay.
All right, maybe not. If I do, ASMR. It's gonna be loud. It's gonna be dramatic.
Send in your blessings.
It might be bloody. It'll be funny. It will be bloody. It'll be touching.
And we promise it's not the Rona.
Yeah. Anyway, what I really liked about this is, even though I'm not so familiar with these characters and their powers, I could tell that they're being used to serve this story in creative ways.
Right.
So one of the things that happens is in the aforementioned Batman scene, when Batman is reaching out to everybody, he tells them that he is using Mr. Freeze's technology to slow his metabolism
down, right?
So that the virus doesn't take over him as fast, which is brilliant. It's such a creative thing for Batman to do.
It's a very Batman thing.
And so often we just hear in comics about like, he's the smartest man in the world, he's the smartest scientist in the world, he's whatever, and we don't see it. Just like, and then poof, like they just like save the world, right? But we don't see them actually being clever and creative and stuff. And that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then the other gorier but more creative thing was when Barry Allen, the Flash, gets infected with the virus, and he just starts running around the world to infect as many people as possible. And Superman goes after him. They're like, Superman, how are you going to catch him? He's like, I don't need to catch him. I'm going to meet him on the other side. And he just flies directly through the Flash. Because the Flash is going so fast, you figure just basic science, if he hits anything, he's breaking it in half.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
Especially the Man of Steel. So I just thought that was so creative. Like very creative use of these powers,
right?
This ingenuity and stuff like that. And Poison Ivy was a big part of this arc. You know, she basically creates a haven in Gotham by creating a garden that the anti-living can't penetrate.
Right. Yeah, we see a pretty much, it's much like in a zombie story. You'll get like the outcasts of the group to come together. And, you know, those are the ones who are going to form the bonds and try to make
remake
things,
society,
make things better.
Like what I like also specifically about these use of abilities is that they're not invented just as a Deus Ex Machina. Like, oh, we need them to do this right now. So suddenly they're able to do it. Like we knew all along, this is Poison Ivy's power. We knew all along Bruce Wayne is a freaking genius, right? Genius detective. That's how he's able to figure it out so quickly and do that. And Superman is the Man of Steel. That's why if you're going as fast as Barry Allen and you hit something made of steel, that's it. It's all over. Like these are established powers being used in new ways, and I love that.
And I'm glad you mentioned the Barry Allen and Superman scene. It was probably one thing I like about this writer is he knows suspense. Suspense is his cousin in a sense, because he knows it very well. And if you see that panel when Superman meets Barry Allen, pretty much explodes him into a million pieces.
Oh yeah, he gets obliterated.
And you're thinking like, oh, that's the end of it. But Superman reveals that, you know, he was infected. It just so happened that Barry Allen was able to penetrate him through
part of Barry Allen's
his finger was inside.
He was able to get one finger through like his ribcage or something. And that infected Superman. And Superman let the much like the moment that Batman has with his son, Superman also has a moment with John where he's pretty much passing the mantle over. And Superman is flying as far away from them as possible because Superman can't really kill himself.
Yeah. Well, but I think they said something about like if he flies fast enough, far enough out, there's not enough oxygen in his blood or something for it to spread. But he doesn't get far enough.
Yeah, he was trying to get out of the reach of like any type of sun, because that's what rejuvenates his power, the power of the sun. So he was trying to put himself out of the void where he would just float out, you know, indefinitely, basically. But he, like you said, he doesn't get far. The virus takes over too quickly, and you see it infected in the next panel. You see it infected Superman flying back. With that face of it's all discombobulated and
it's all over.
John has to pretty much go out and try to kill his father. And it's just like you have the mix of emotion. You have the sadness here of Superman leaving, dying, and then you have the big action set piece to set it all up, and you're just like, wow, this story is like so brutal and so unforgiving. And that's why had to recommend it because
Absolutely.
it's something. Any story that doesn't hold no prisoners, some stories are pretty much just has this clause in the stories that, hey, this guy cannot die.
Right.
And I'll tell you one thing I did not like about this.
Okay.
And this is why the sequel, Deceased, Dead Planet, is such an important part of the saga, in my opinion.
Right.
So I think too often writers try to subvert your expectations, right? Like, I mean, this is a good thing. Writers should be trying to subvert your expectations, right?
Right.
That's what makes reading interesting because you don't know how it's going to end. But I think that in the last, especially 20 years or so, that's been taken to, everybody's expecting a happy ending.
Right.
So we're going to subvert your expectations by not having a happy ending. And spoiler alert, the ending to the 6-issue saga of Deceased is not exactly happy. I won't mention what it is. I mean, even though we're spoiling a bunch of other stuff, but why not? Whatever. It doesn't matter, right?
Take the ride with us,
But
guys.
the point is, it's not a happy ending, and it's revealed that there actually could have been a happy ending, right? Like Cyborg's realization at the end. Well, not realization exactly, but he basically uses Wonder Woman's lasso of truth to find out from one of the unliving as to whether there's a cure. And he finds out that there is. Yeah. Right? And then his head is ripped off.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Yeah, it's just severed from his body. And that really kind of left me on a sour note because for me the fun is not necessarily getting subverted into I thought this was going to be a happy ending, but it wasn't. To me that's not as fun as I'm expecting the heroes to come out victorious in this. Right. But I really have no idea how it's going to happen. Like that, and Tom Taylor does such a great job of every time they think they have a plan, that plan gets just screwed, just fucked.
Yeah, it gets punched in the face.
Yeah, and so you're really okay, how are they going to get out of this? And then when they don't, it just feels like a cop-out. It feels a little bit like a cop-out. So that's so I was kind of all right, I guess this is what it is. I guess this is just 2010s, 2000s comics. Just you're morose. Yep. You don't get the happy ending. You just have to ponder the questions of life, and that's it. Yeah. But then Deceased, Dead Planet, which picks up the story 5 years later after this arc, actually resolves this. Right. And throws a bunch more obstacles in the way.
Shit just goes.
Which I think, so I think it's great. I mean, spoiler alert for Deceased, Dead Planet. Everybody's cured. The dead are still dead, though. Everybody. Yeah. Batman's dead. Joker's dead. Yep. They were killed while they were unliving, so they're dead. But the people that were still alive and unliving, they get cured, right? Yeah. And so it was fun for me to just see, it was like it was like reading a blockbuster movie, right? And so, for me, it is really this is the Infinity War movie, where it ends with the Thanos snap. Spoiler alert for Infinity War. If you haven't seen it, yeah. Right. So this ends with the snap, sort of. In this case, right. It's not exactly that, but and then the second half brings it back to how you think it's going to go, and it doesn't actually in a similar way where it kind of strips it to the core. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it breaks it down.
Yeah, and they figure out a way to do it, and it's pretty great. I think it's really great. Yeah, and I'm glad that they resolved it because that was really the only sour note I had about reading these 6 issues. I was like, this is great, but he totally copped out of an ending.
Well, I mean, strategically speaking, it was a good way to segue into the Unkillables and Deceased Planet and whatnot.
Right. Well, the Unkillables is a 3-issue arc, and it takes place at the same time that all of this is taking place. Right. And it's pretty awesome. It's got Commissioner Jim Gordon in it, leading a bunch of villains, and that's great. That's a great plot.
And Batgirl helping him out.
But not his daughter.
No, Cassandra Cain, Batgirl.
Yeah. Dead Planet, I really think if he ended it knowing that there was going to be another miniseries, then okay, good job.
Right.
But if they ended it
like not
just like this
all.
and that could have been it, I would have been mad. I would have been like, I understand that the heroes can't always win,
but still.
But part of the fun is figuring out how they can overcome the most difficult odds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially to end it with like dangling that little bit of hope and then just having it get knocked away.
Oh, but that itself should have been a prelude to like, okay, there's gonna be something else to come around. Because he gave you hope,
right?
Basically, so he lets you know what it feels like. Okay, this is the path. This is a clear path to pretty much winning.
Right.
But what would be the fun in that if you knew what path they could take to get there?
Right. Well, that's the point.
So because you'll be from that point that you heard, the resolution, you'll be looking for every step of the way. Okay, this has to happen. This has to happen. This has to happen.
Right.
And
the masterful part of this is that you think, okay, this is what has to happen, and then that shit gets blown up.
It just stomps.
Yeah, so then you're like, okay, now what?
Curb stomped.
Yeah. Okay, now what?
So for me, I appreciate that.
I know you like the dark endings. You like
not necessarily.
You like the Atticus dying at the end of Lovecraft Country.
Hey, but that's what grabs the attention of the viewer. It's much like when Atticus, going back to Lovecraft, when Atticus first was warned about his death.
Right.
That it's things like that like really hits me. It's like, wow. And when it happens, and it's just like it's like those little moments of.
But in that show, right? And I guess we should just start every episode saying that not only are we going to spoil the stuff we discussed in this episode, we're also going to spoil all the shit that we spoiled in the last couple episodes.
Yeah,
we're going to re-spoil it for you.
So listen to them in order.
Yeah. So if you don't listen to all the shows in order,
you're going to get spoiled.
There's going to be a clusterfuck of spoilers.
But so like part of the fun of Lovecraft Country also is once Atticus knows he's going to die, the whole time you're like, well, are they going to figure out a way to make it so that he doesn't die?
Right.
You know what I mean? And listen, it's satisfying. That whole ending is satisfying.
It is.
This is also satisfying in a way, but it just felt a little bit like, and like I said, this is like me nitpicking.
Of course.
You know what I mean? It's not a perfect comp, but it's a really great
this is what we're here to do.
Yeah, we're here to
I want you to nitpick every part of it. That's what we're here to do.
Absolutely.
But like I said, it takes risks basically.
Yes, I agree.
It could very well, people could very well be turned off to the idea of leaving undeveloped characters like John and Damien aren't really. I know Damien for the most part. He's not a very well liked character.
Damien is very divisive.
Was Damien introduced in the Court of the Owls? Or was he around before that?
So he was introduced in the Court of the Owls movie around the animated movie, but no. So he was introduced before that.
That's like the only. Yeah. That's like the only modern era DC arc I read was the
Court of the Owls,
the new 52 Court of the Owls.
So fucking good, by the way. But so Damien was introduced in was it Son of Batman?
Makes sense.
Yeah, it was Son of Batman, I believe. Which was like pre New 52. So like we're talking like 2009, 2010.
Yeah. But I mean, no matter how you cut the story, he's always Italia's and Bruce's son.
Seed.
So,
seed, if you will.
Yeah, he.
No, it has to be said that way. He's a test tube baby.
Yeah, he was. Bruce was drugged, pretty much.
Allegedly.
All right. I'll read it.
So yeah, no, it's a whole
thing
about it.
It's a whole thing. But so he's a very, very divisive character. I think people have softened towards him in like the most recent years, but when he was like first introduced, he was fucking bearable. Unbearable. He was like the most spoiled, douchiest piece of shit that was ever born. And like I hated him. But again, I'm a Tim Drake mark, so I just hated him and his behavior.
I don't know what half of those words mean.
You should know what a mark is.
I know what a mark is.
But Tim Drake was the previous Robin, the third Robin. But yeah.
He's
Yeah.
yeah.
Needless to say, he has come into his own as a character, especially during this story arc. He grew very.
I
very
just
much.
think that I think the writers made him too bitchy as a kid.
He was
For
entitled.
somebody who was raised as an assassin, as a killer, he's too much of a rogue teenager, to be honest.
So
That's how he acts.
his whole thing was that he was this pretentious, entitled child. Like he was super smart, super adept at hand-to-hand combat. So everything just kind of, I won't say it came naturally to him, because like you did see some of his struggles while he was training, but for the most part, everything was just like presented to him, and he was like, "Oh, I have these great legacy to uplift the Batman legacy and the League of Assassins legacy as well."
But that's my thing. He was presented as if he was actually raised by Bruce, as Bruce Wayne's son to the Batman son.
Right.
He was that's how he came off, as if he was raised as a rich kid.
Right.
They just happened to find out that, when he was in like the 8th grade, that his father was Batman. He's like, "Oh, my father's Batman. Your father ain't shit.
My father can beat up your father."
can beat up your father." So he gave me those type of vibes. Whether and you look at like Dick Grayson or even Jason Todd. Jason Todd feels that role that Damian tries to feel a bit more thoroughly, because he died, he came back to life. He's.
There's a lot of spoilers going on here.
Oh yeah, we're spoiling.
I mean, if you don't know the story of Jason Todd,
I don't.
I'm just
really
gonna say,
don't.
shame on you. It's okay for you.
Yeah.
You're not a DC guy, so
DC,
but anybody else who enjoys DC should know.
Spoiler
or should have at
for
least,
DJ BJ.
yeah,
Right.
or should
Jason
have at least
the
seen.
second Batman, the second Robin dies and is resurrected.
You should have at least seen the Under the Red Hood movie. Which
Are you familiar with what is that comic arc that he dies?
Death of the Family.
Oh,
Death in the Family.
Death in the Family. But
I've heard of it.
Yeah. What you should blame people, because people voted. People voted for him to die. Basically, they had a call in for people to vote his fate, and people voted for him to die.
So there is a rumor. I won't say it's proven, but there was a rumor that it was actually like one guy who set it up in a way that he basically called in for like the majority of those votes leading towards Jason's death. So there was actually one person to blame.
I was going to say, it sounds like no matter what the results were, they were going to tell you that the results were for him to die, because that was the plan.
Yeah, probably. But if that rumor is true, then that guy's a goddamn hero.
Well, because
killing Jason Todd was the best thing that happened
for his character. Actually, as fucked up as it is, that was the best thing for his character, because he became far more compelling.
And it made the Joker a far more.
Jason Todd and Jesus, two guys.
Yeah, two guys
whose myth really grew after they got resurrected.
Fair point.
And who were brutally killed, basically,
for just trying to do right.
For
the most part, because Jason was also the Robin that killed people.
Well, I don't know if Jason was doing right.
Well, he was the Robin that dropped the guy off a roof, but the dude was a rapist, so you can't feel too bad.
I mean, there is a due process, so I mean, Jason was a bit of a wildcat. Yeah, he made his bed, and he did lay in that 6-foot deep bed at the end of the day
for like a week.
Yeah, he was resurrected somehow. I forgot how. He was resurrected by Lazarus.
Well, it depends on if we're talking post 52, it was a Lazarus pit. If we're talking pre 52, it was Superman Prime's punch to reality.
Okay,
as wacky as that sounds. As wacky as that sounds. Because that makes sense.
Yeah, it made well, the Lazarus liquid doesn't make any sense, but Hey, you know what? That's funny that he compared Jason Todd and Jesus, because what Jesus rose Lazarus from the dead, resurrected, and that's what the pit is called.
Oh, they knew what they were doing.
I was gonna say, who's the writer on that arc?
Yeah, somebody.
Whoever it was.
There was a rogue deacon. It was a rogue pope in a church.
Some
rogue
very obvious choices.
Yeah, it was a rogue cardinal. That's what it was.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody should read Deceased.
Yes, Dceased.
Read the whole thing.
2019 comic. recommended by none other than the illustrious, non-qualified Dr. X. And
I second that recommendation.
Yeah.
And read all the tie-ins. There's not, unlike most events, there's not that many.
Right.
Yeah. So no, it's good.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Shall we move on?
We shall. I just want to address one thing though.
Oh.
John Constantine is the man. That's all I'm gonna say for Dceased.
John
he's
Constantine
the fucking man.
is and shout out to the voice actor. I think his name is Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matthew Ryan.
He does a phenomenal job voicing him in the animated movies, Justice League Dark. If his acting chops, I've never seen him act.
Oh, he played Constantine in his live action series, and it was a fucking great series.
Yeah,
it was canceled. It was canceled, sadly.
But yeah, his voice acting for John Constantine is the best, and John Constantine as a character is.
John Constantine as a character definitely made me want to read more John Constantine stories.
Oh yes,
John Constantine. He is a wild cannon, kind of a drunk. Doctor Strange, if Doctor Strange went to the nightclub like every 2 weeks.
Right. With the splash of Batman, because he has a plan for everything for some fucking reason.
Yeah, he's always prepared for everything. He has backups to his backups. When you wouldn't think about it looking at him. He's kind of like fly by the seat of his pants kind of guy.
Oh yeah.
But John Constantine is a formidable opponent to any character in DC.
Yeah, if I forgot the dude's name, but like if they were to make a Beyond Omega level, I'd say he could give it a run for money. I'd say I'd nominate him for a Beyond Omega level on principle alone.
I mean, Zatanna hasn't beat.
Well, yeah, but that's Mistress C. You know, she's almost our Sorceress Supreme. You know, we got Dr. Fate, but, you know, she's still pretty up there.
Yeah.
But
Dr. Fate could be anybody.
Well, true. But I will say, like, I feel like she's been nerfed. Like, from the New 52, she was pretty nerfed. She was way stronger before. But, you know, we're kind of rambling at this point. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Check out more John Constantine, more Doctor Strange. All magical, actually.
And check out... and this may be another topic on a future podcast, but check out The Batman Who Laughs. It is a series on a spin on Batman if he were pretty much the Joker. How that happens, how that comes to be, you have to find out in those comics, but check it out. It's a really good read, and I have not missed, not yet. 2 for 0 right now.
All right.
I'd like to point out that I've also helped with these suggestions.
Yeah, he's definitely put me
because I read a lot of shit.
Yes, my suggestions get ignored, but next week we'll talk about something.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Listen, so Pornhub subscriptions and category don't count.
Go to YouPorn.
Why not?
It's free.
Okay.
Dr. Triple X. That's what we're gonna do.
Well, that's what I am by now. You know, there's a late night podcast.
Yeah.
We'll talk about all of those type of things, you know.
Pop culture
here we keep
dark,
it
baby.
PG-13/R-rated at times. So.
Occasionally. All right. So we're gonna transition now and bring
up. Oh
up.
my goodness. Sorry, guys.
No, Siri has some input.
She found that it's time for us to transition, and now we're going to discuss the Suicide Squad.
The Suicide Squad.
Not to be confused with Suicide Squad, but The Suicide Squad, which was directed by James Gunn, starring Idris Elba, Margot Robbie, Viola Davis, and
another character who you cannot see. Yeah, someone who you cannot see in the movie. But
well, I didn't mention him because I couldn't see him.
Yeah. We're going to keep that running joke going.
I already said it, so.
Yeah.
So, who wants to start with this one?
I'll start with this one.
All right.
I really enjoyed this movie over the previous movie, Suicide Squad. I think it didn't take itself seriously. It had a bit more fun with the characters. Even from the beginning, you know, it showed them approaching this beach. It didn't go out through the long drawn out segment. And I hate to like make a comparison, which is not going to be a comparison from Suicide Squad to the Suicide Squad, but this is my baseline that I have to go off of when I'm judging the movie. But it didn't go through a long drawn out segment to try to introduce you to each character and their background and what they do. It kind of just presented them as they are and dropped them in this setting. And from that, it just, kind of lost my train of thought there. But from there, it takes off. Each character is pretty much in Amanda Waller's world. Yeah. And she gets to fuck with them as much as she wants to. If she sees fit, they will die right there on the spot.
She is a cruel puppet master.
And we see that to a much higher degree in this movie, film. So, yeah, I think I give this movie a high 3 out of 5.
Okay.
There was some cons, there was some hiccups. I think, as far as like the motives behind some of the characters didn't really make sense. Like John Cena's character, I didn't really get the Peacemaker's like his motives for doing what he did, for like really keeping the information away from
everything is in the sake of peace. Okay, he had to sacrifice everything. He will kill children, babies, women.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Which is a giant satire. Right?
Yeah. Which I guess I gotta give it a pass because the whole thing was pretty much satire.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
So I guess I'm being too judgmental on that. I could be being too judgmental on that front. I mean, we see that the whole thing is not taking itself seriously. When Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn is shooting and you literally see flowers and petals coming out through the background. I thought the girl was an acid.
Well, so I want to touch on that a little bit because, I don't know if either of you have ever played the Arkham City games of Batman.
No.
How about you, Dr. X? Have you played?
Yes, I've played all of them.
So there is a point where like you get to play as Harley for like a split second, and so in those games, Batman has like a detective mode he goes into where he flips on his cowl and you can see like all the enemies and locations and stuff like that. So for Harley Quinn's character in that game, she has a thing where she can do something similar, but rather than see like all the like enemies and locations and stuff, like it's literally just like you could see her thoughts like made manifest. So to me, I took that as meaning like that's what she sees and that's how she relates to reality.
Yep.
Like for her, like that's a part of her psychosis, if you will. Like that's how she sees things. She's like, okay, so rather than her spraying bullets everywhere, she's shooting like flower petals and roses and rainbows and unicorns. And even in some of her comics, it's touched on a little bit that she's not all there. And like she sees things differently. Like there's a sort of event she does where, this is kind of a spoiler if you've never read the Harley Quinn run of comics, but there's an event where she basically gives, like, I guess you could say bombs in the form of like video games to kids. And like, it's implied that, she blows them up. But like in her eyes, it was a harmless little prank. And like, there's another instance, there's like a panel where she is like, just beating the crap out of somebody and bash their heads in, and she's like, "Oh, like he'll be fine. Like, he's just a little loopy. He'll get back up." And the person's dead.
Yeah.
So like, it seems to me like she can't relate to reality.
I mean, that's
basically
kind of like what I associate with Harley Quinn.
Right.
Not knowing anything about her, that's like the kind of. I mean, that's the kind of psychosis also that I associate with anything Joker related. Kind of like.
Fair point.
Not treating these dastardly things as dastardly things.
Right.
But her characterization is not that dark in this.
No. Yeah, of course not.
The first thing that you said, 100%, like, and I'm sure that James Gunn has played that video game and was like, that's such a James Gunn thing to do. Like, let's throw a little Easter egg to the 4 seconds of a video game that fans will understand.
Right.
With exploding unicorns and stuff like that. And I have to say, like, I wasn't so sure because, like, I wasn't so sure about Margot Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn. I have not seen Birds of Prey. I did not see the first Suicide Squad. I don't know how consistent it is even across the 3 movies. Her
performance has been a standout. Okay. So yeah.
It's not consistent with what I know of the character, but like it was, for example, in Deceased.
Oh yeah.
It was definitely written the way that she portrays Harley Quinn in the movie. So at least that was consistent.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like a matter of like sometimes they do make the comics more similar to the character's portrayal in the movies. They do
sometimes
that. Like they do that just so that people who watch the movies and get into the comics are like, "What the hell is this?"
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she was good.
Yeah.
The acting was fun. I mean, my favorite was definitely Sylvester Stallone as King Shark or whatever his name is.
King Shark.
I
was so surprised.
I was still wondering, like, where the hell is Sylvester Stallone?
I loved Sylvester Stallone, his little cameo in Guardians 2, and I love him in this movie. I think he's got a great sense of humor about his own career and who he is. And the whole time I was like, if they kill this fucking shark, I'm done. I don't want it.
Yeah. We're pretty invested in it.
And I mean, his shark. Oh, wow. We're getting some super dramatic
opera singing
to they're excited about King Shark.
They're scoring this super dramatically.
Works for us. We're reaching a fever pitch.
I think I completely lost my train of thought now about King Shark.
King Shark is a shark.
Yes, he is. He made me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Even when I was watching this movie, and I have to say, like, overall, I would not give this a high 3. I'd give it like a 2.5, maybe closer to 2 out of 5.
You guys are brutal.
Yeah. So I wasn't that big of a fan of the movie, but but the scenes where they had jokes for King Shark actually made me laugh out loud because they were unexpected, and it was very, very funny.
Right on.
Yeah, but I didn't like it. But you guys talk about why you liked it. I'll bring us down.
To be honest, the reason why I scored it like a high 3, and that would be like a 3.5. Okay. I wouldn't give it a 4 or a 5 out of 5 because
I would.
To be honest, when I look at story content. Okay. Was the story so compelling to where I could? I mean, you can't. Any movie can go off the rule of cool. The rule of cool would be like, okay, we implement a cool idea. Let's get Peacemaker and let's have John Cena play. Let's get Idris Elba and have him play Deadshot. Let's get Margot Robbie and have a replat. Bloodsport, not Deadshot, not Will Smith. He was Bloodsport.
Oh man.
Sorry about that. But I think that they follow. I think James Gunn, which it worked well for this movie. It followed the rule of cool.
Right.
Let's add the coolest ideas. Let's add like a super colorful villain, so we can like just add all this pop in. Let's add Polka Dot Man in there. A Batman villain, by the way. Let's add him in there and just have the movie, give it that extra personality. Now the movie had personality. I'll give it 5 out of 5 with personality. But if I'm going to judge a movie based on all aspects of a movie, I'm going to judge it on the story, I'm going to judge it on the CGI, I'm going to judge it on the characters, I'm going to judge it on how cohesive the story was and how it came off. I had to give it a high 3 is generous. Okay. I'm gonna just be honest. A high 3 is generous. To give it a 4,
I think so. No, I think a high 3 is generous. To be honest.
Yeah, to give it a 4, you're putting it on the level of like a Infinity Wars Endgame. It had that type of. It had to have that type of effect, and even with that, some people probably wouldn't even give Infinity War Endgame a 4 or a high 3. It may just be like a run-of-the-mill basic story to them. But I would give Endgame a 4.
Okay.
So I would. That's my reason for not giving it a 4. But like I said, it had personality, like all through the roof.
So I just think, first of all, like all of the shock value that was in this movie
Right.
How bloody it is, all of the senseless death, kind of like haha joking through all of these gruesome, gory scenes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that shocking anymore.
True.
You know, Deadpool's done it twice. Kick-Ass has done it twice or 3 times?
Twice.
You know, even Guardians of the Galaxy did it for as much as a PG-13 movie would allow James Gunn to do it within Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So
Fair point.
it's just the so-called character that you would say, Gerald. Oh shit! Oh.
Who the hell is that?
Oh my god!
We're breaking the fourth wall now.
Oh shit! We're gonna edit that out.
No, keep it.
You're just
Keep
gonna
it.
You have to like go back and just go. So what did characters you said? Dr. X.
No. We just gonna hold on 1 second. That was a sound of the snap to reverse back time. That was a time stone.
So I actually didn't even see this movie as having its own unique character, to be honest with you, because I mean, yes, it was funny.
Right.
Yes, the characters in the movie are fun.
Right.
I wouldn't say any of them are compelling. You know,
Okay.
even Idris Elba's story, Bloodsport's story in this, of like he's only doing this for his daughter, like that's as compelling and deep as it gets.
Right.
It doesn't get any more deeper than that, right? Like the Rat Catcher, I think, is the most
Compelling
character from a backstory, touching, makes you feel something thing
Yeah,
about
she was
it.
adorable.
And it's all played for laughs, and it makes you kind of feel like, why does any of this matter? And to your point, also, the villain was a complete joke. You know, I mean, the hive mind. Was it a jellyfish?
Starro.
Yeah,
Starro.
Starro the starfish, right? So like, it's a visual gag of a villain. You know, who's made to be like some kind of threat, but whatever. And then the deeper villain, the real villain is Waller.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For her imperialistic American thing. But the thing is that the story doesn't go, it's like, oh, by the way, this is imperialist America trying to protect their ass again. You know, and it's like a 5-minute thing in the movie, and it doesn't really delve deep or ground it like that enough, in my opinion. So, like, yeah, the story didn't matter. It was barely cohesive. Like, it just had an A to B plot line. I didn't think there were any twists and turns. There was never like a time where we were talking about Deceased, where I was like, oh, how are they gonna fight this? I was like, I was like, I know what's gonna happen, and it happens, and I know what's gonna happen at the end,
Right.
And to your point, there is one scene that happens in the movie that I thought was going to have like some major repercussions, and that's when they're going into this village to save the agent that forget his name, but he's
Rick
kidnapping.
Flag.
Yeah,
Rick Flag.
And they're killing people on the way to save him.
Yes.
And we go to find out that those people that they were murdering
were the good guys.
as a little contest.
Yeah.
They were good guys.
So that
Itself would have been, if it would have been like a serious movie, she would have not even helped them. She would have been
Of course.
She's like, oh, you killed my whole crew. These people had families. These people were here to help you.
But that's the thing. These like senseless violence is played for a joke. And listen, I gotta say, it was a funny joke.
Oh, absolutely.
It was a funny joke that has not been in a superhero movie before.
True.
So good on him. But to me, this was like, if they just let James Gunn do an R-rated Guardians of the Galaxy, it would have been exactly the same movie with different characters. You have the talking animated thing, right? First in who's the guy that drowns?
Oh, the weasel.
The weasel. Yeah, first you have the weasel, who's like basically like, hey, look, it's like Rocket Raccoons in this movie, and then he just kills him.
Well, it's pretty brutal. Well, kills him.
Yeah, but I think like
also he eats children, so there's that
well,
too.
Sure.
Can't feel too guilty about that.
I think if James Gunn could have had Rocket eating children, he would. Because if you remember that first Guardian movie, one of the craziest scenes in that movie, like the most emotional scene in that movie, and Rocket like is going off on what's his face? Oh my god, why am I blanking? Dave Bautista's character.
Drax.
I was gonna say Drax. Yeah, he's going off on Drax, and he's like, "Oh, you want me to feel bad for you because your family, your wife and your kid died?" And it's like, okay, this is as edgy as PG-13 Marvel will let you happen. Like this is as much of a dick as anybody in a Marvel movie will ever be, because it's such an unfeeling thing to say, right?
Yeah.
So like, if it was a rated R movie, he would have just like recreated the scene of his wife and kid dying. Like, and that was what Suicide Squad was. And like James Gunn he started off working for Troma, making B horror movies. And he did Guardians of the Galaxy, which is like B Marvel characters at the time. They were B Marvel characters.
Yeah, he actually helped put them back on the map.
Yeah. So, and this is the same exact thing. He just is like, what are the weirdest characters I can take and make cool?
Yeah.
You know, so you have Polka Dot Man and you have King Shark and you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. It follows a James Gunn formula. It follows an R-rated superhero film formula. It really didn't do much for me. No. But I will say I was hella entertained and I laughed.
Yeah.
And you know, and my impression of DC movies, which I have not seen any of except the two Wonder Woman movies, and what is that? Superman Returns, right? That was the first DCU movie.
No, Man of Steel.
Man of Steel?
Yeah, that was the first DCU movie.
Okay, that was the Brandon Routh Superman?
No, that was Superman Returns.
Superman Returns. That's not a DCU movie.
Okay. All right, so then
was not part of the.
Oh, so I'm not even sure if I've seen Man of Steel.
Man of Steel is with Henry Cavill.
Is Man of Steel where like he basically kills like the entire town by dropping a bunch of shit on them, like in the final fight?
Well, yeah. I mean, he didn't do it on purpose, but basically, that's what happened.
Okay, so I have seen Man of Steel. So my takeaway from my impression of the DC movie universe is that it's incredibly serious.
Yes, that's the idea.
And you know, like even Wonder Woman, the jokes are kind of like, does this really belong in this movie? Like you feel like they put those jokes in there because everybody was kind of like, yeah, you need some comic relief in these movies.
Right, so they started skewing
So
it.
this is not, I don't know what relation this has to the DC EU, but...
I mean...
I don't know. But it was nice to see a DC movie that did not take itself seriously.
Right.
And I think probably Suicide Squad, I've heard, also takes itself very seriously, the first one.
Well, so originally, like, it was supposed to take itself a lot more seriously. But they reshot it to try to make it more Deadpool-like because Deadpool had gone over so well. And that is set in the DC universe because, like, it has Ben Affleck's Batman. And even, I believe this one, The Suicide Squad, is also set in the universe because they do mention Bloodshot shooting Superman with a kryptonite bullet.
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned the first Suicide Squad.
Right, as well.
Right? And they have the two characters that are from that first movie.
Right,
so,
Arlene Flagg. And Amanda Waller, yeah. She's there too.
So,
but they do. I think they do it. They introduce certain things in a way, almost like John Wick. John Wick, you don't think about the people that John Wick killed. You don't think about, oh, this guy had a wife and family. But you think about how cool John Wick looks as he's killing like 100 guys.
Right.
And so when they mentioned
but Dr. X, they fucking killed this dog, Dr. X.
Yes, they killed his
dog after his wife died.
Listen, that's compelling for 6 movies. Okay, so until I get 6 John Wick movies, I'm still into that story.
We're still halfway, almost halfway there. So
I'm still into that story. This had no compelling story.
Except for Ratcatcher. Ratcatcher too.
I agree with that. And my main gripe against the first film was what was the story going to be if the Enchantress hadn't turned up? What were they going to do? They had this.
I don't even know what the story in the first movie is, to be honest with you. So
that was pretty much.
So they was building up their team. They was gathering their team. They're telling you the backstory of each of their teams. And then Enchantress turned on them, which is one of their teammates. Yeah. She turned on them, basically. And their team is to retrieve her, to get her, to stop her. So I'm thinking, like, okay, if she hadn't turned on them or just went rogue,
I understand.
What were they going to do? What mission were they going to build up or do if that wasn't the thing?
Well, I think first it was her brother that they were looking at her. Like, that's what she had assembled a team for, to go after her brother, who was, like, kind of doing stuff but not really doing stuff, and then like she went to her brother, and then that made it it's bigger.
So it made it like a story out of it, and I think
Right.
it was just like a lackluster. But after this, I want to hear Donnie's thoughts about.
Yeah,
the
you
movie.
said you'd rated a 4 or 5.
Yeah,
So after you guys done,
let's get the negative Nancy chapter.
Yeah.
like after you guys done buried this movie and shit, now I gotta come and be like, well, yeah, I
Here's a shower.
But yeah, so you know, I'm just gonna get it out the way. I actually enjoyed the first Suicide Squad movie, and I enjoyed this one a lot. Well, of course, I naturally enjoyed this one a lot more than the first one, but I was actually a fan of the first Suicide Squad movie because at the time I had already invested some time into the Suicide Squad comic books from the New 52, which you guys should definitely go check out, and the lineup resembled that a lot more, and it was fun. There were some fucking weird parts, things that turned me off. Like one of the main issues I've had with DC movies, since the DC EU started, was the lack of like bloody repercussions. Now I'm not saying I'm a pure blood and guts guy or whatever, but I feel like when it calls for it, you should just do it. Just like realistically speaking, like if you're fucking blowing people's heads off, there should be some level of core to that. It doesn't have to be splattering the screen, but like it should have real stakes. And the fact that they just made rock people, I thought that was stupid. For the most part, Harley Quinn, of course, Margot Robbie, stellar performance, Will Smith, stellar performance, Amanda Waller, aka Viola Davis, stellar performance. Everybody was pretty entertaining for me. The potentially racist caricature Killer Croc in the first one, BT, really? BT?
He was played by a black guy.
I know he's played by a black guy, but BT, you in jail, you just saved the world, and the thing you asked for is BT? Really? That's not it, man. That's not it. That's not it.
I normally would pick up on stuff like that. That's how, no striker. I'm not trying to like try to bury the movie, but that's how bad the movie was. I didn't even pick up on the potential racial slurs or racial, innuendos.
But that aside, Killer Croc was fun or whatever. The villains in the movie. See, I like Cara Delevingne's portrayal of the duality of June Moon and the Enchantress, minus the weird dubstep dance at the end. That was a little freaky, but sure, whatever. It was all right. There are some merits to it. I can see why people hated it, but I enjoyed it. Going into the second movie, this blew the first movie out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
The CGI was much better. Going off the Weasel to King Shark to Starro, like, look pretty as hell, phenomenal. The visuals were amazing. The acting was top notch, for the most part, for everybody who came to play. They all came and did a stellar performance, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There were, of course, some like points where they dipped in quality and stuff like that, but you're gonna have those moments in these kinds of movies where it's focused more so on the action and the comedy as opposed to coherent storytelling. I give it a 4 because I enjoyed the chemistry amongst the characters and how they interacted with the world and the stakes they possessed in the world of the story. I thought it was great that the first Suicide Squad was basically a gimme. I thought it was a little shitty that they killed off Captain Boomerang, who was there for like 2 seconds. I was like, oh man, like he's back, and then you just kill him like as a throwaway. And I was like, oh shit. But, stakes were high.
Yeah.
Also, I was looking forward to Pete Davidson in this movie. Like he's somebody who I've just become like interested in as like an actor and a comedian. And he was there. Not only was he a snitch, but he died in the first few minutes. Spoiler, But I thought I was really disappointed by that. I was like, oh wow, and he was promoting the shit out of the movie too. He was like, oh come see me in Suicide Squad. It's great. It's gonna be great. And then
I think they just raised his stakes a bit more as an actor. I mean, who can say other than The Rock that I've been everywhere, I've done a little bit of everything. which I am tired of The Rock, to be honest. I'm just no slight. I know I'm gonna get some hate from the female listeners if there are any. Aren't you? You're not tired of seeing The Rock? I mean,
not really. No.
He's done like 3 movies this year.
He's not bad in anything, though.
He's not bad at anything, but it's like Jesus, man.
You telling me that you are tired of hearing if you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Well, I wouldn't be
telling me that shit plays every time I see him on screen.
It's funny. When The Rock first started doing movies, they worked in The Rock bottom in every fight scene. It was freaking great, like as the Scorpion King and stuff.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty awesome. But no, I don't know. I don't know why.
I guess I'm lonely in this fight against
listen, I think that we need at any given point in time to have like a definitive action star.
Right.
You know what I mean? Bruce Willis is mad old. He hasn't really made a great action movie in a long time.
But even if it was Bruce Willis making like 3 movies a year, I would be like, bro, come on.
You feel like he's oversaturated.
You are the only one that's doing it.
But listen.
I guarantee you, The Rock. If Tom Cruise retired, The Rock is going to be in the next Mission Impossible. I guarantee you that.
I can see that. Henry Cavill was in one of the last ones.
But that's what I'm saying, though. But we need a Tom Cruise, Bruce Willis, Harrison Ford, whatever. That you know what I mean? Like Harrison Ford was in Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
But The Rock is not only.
They tried to make Shia LaBeouf into that. Remember that shit?
Yeah, Transformers.
But The Rock is not only the
Indiana Jones. They set him up.
But cool, Daddy-O.
I feel like he's crossing all genres. He's not only the action, but the drama, comedy, the kid. He's crossing everything like Jesus. Even in the animated.
Oh God.
He did, what is Moana?
Moana.
I was like, Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm pretty sure his bottom line is growing exponentially, which I'm happy for them.
He was great in Moana.
He's one of the highest paid actors.
He was great.
And it's not because The Rock is in it. It's just I haven't gotten around to watch it.
It's good.
It's good. They actually finally put it on Disney Plus. It wasn't on Disney Plus for a while. Like it was advertised, but you couldn't actually watch it. My kids love it.
And especially the Rock song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah. My kids have me rap the entire song all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Anyway, The Rock is good. Listen, don't disrespect our next president like that, all right? That's all I'm saying.
2024.
If The Rock becomes our next president, we have to delete this episode.
Ross gonna be like, you were talking about me?
We don't, because I'm vouching for him, and I want that shit heard.
We supporting.
That's gonna be one of those.
But listen, the
Me
thing
Too
is,
things.
I'm not.
It's gonna come back to bite me.
I'm not voting for The Rock unless he runs as The Rock. I'm not voting for no Dwayne Johnson.
I don't know Dwayne Johnson. I know The Rock.
I want The Rock.
Yeah.
That's it. All right.
Dwayne Johnson is my neighbor. The Rock is my hero.
Right.
So, are you not excited for Black Adam?
Of course, I'm excited. Now, there are some exceptions.
Okay.
There are some exceptions I have. I already have reserved him in my mind and my soul for roles that I know he would play well.
Okay.
Black Adam is one of those. Now, he's going to have to play Black Adam no matter what.
Yeah.
I don't care. So, regardless if he make 10 movies in the same year, Black Adam is the one that I'm going to excuse from that list. But all others, you can literally go from one theater, you leave theater 1 and you go into the auditorium 2, and The Rock is in that movie. And you go say, hey, I'm going to go see this, this, or the Notebook, the sequel to The Notebook, and The Rock is in that. It's like, for Jesus Christ, man. Do you ever give it a break?
That's a good question.
So, but no, I mean, I'm proud of The Rock. I'm glad that he's come a long way. And from a CGI character in the Scorpion King.
Oh, the Mummy
Mummy
Returns.
To being so marketable that you can be in every single movie and not lose stride. So
remember, he was in The Rundown.
And if there's any wrestling,
hold on. I like that movie. I love that movie actually.
He literally got ping-ponged around like he was in Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
If you are allowed to like Suicide Squad,
all right. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the rundown. I enjoyed the rundown.
I think it's great that if there's any,
it's questionable.
There's like
it is suspect as hell.
If there's any debate about The Rock versus John Cena in wrestling circles, then the fact that we just started talking about a movie that John Cena is in and wound up talking about The Rock's career, who has nothing to do with this movie at all, I think that settles the debate in any circle.
Yeah, The Rock has always been the great one.
Don't get me wrong. Listen, John Cena's been killing it as far as movie roles go, especially in comedic movie roles. No. In comedic movie roles, John Cena is killing it right now. Like
that's only comedic. Now, this is where I go.
He's getting his spin-off as Peacemaker.
As Peacemaker.
Yeah. No, this is where I go from bashing The Rock to defending him.
Oh boy.
Now, I may be getting tired of The Rock in movies, but I can't say definitively that.
Hey peeps, what's up? It's your boy Donnie the Dreamer, dropping in to do the wrap up. It was pure chaos. The Rock showed up, and John Cena as well, and they duked it out over us debating over the relevancy of both. Now, I was on John Cena's side, because I feel like he deserves the benefit of the doubt. And BJ was just talking his smack, but he couldn't see John Cena. And then The Rock turned on Dr. X because he had started to bash him, and The Rock wasn't having any of it, so he put Dr. X to the table. It was chaos. It was this shrapnel table, shrapnel food, and blood everywhere. It was pure chaos, pure destruction. All jokes aside, there was a little bit of a technical difficulty with the end of the podcast, and it's fine. BJ and Dr. X will return, from his ass whooping by next week when we record again for the next episode of the Pop Culture Academy. So this episode was Dceased and the Suicide Squad. If you have not, please do go and support the official content from DC. They were just great pieces of work, and we really enjoyed it. We really had a blast discussing it and reading through it and preparing for this episode, which was a lot of fun. This is our longest episode yet, but we appreciate you guys taking this ride with us and just toughing it out with us, and stay along for the ride. It's only going to get more chaotic and more hilarious for there as we catch our footing and figure things out, and we really appreciate the support. This upcoming week, we will be discussing, hopefully if things go well, we will be discussing on the next episode of the Pop Culture Academy the Manhattan Projects from Jonathan Hickman, I believe, and the Invincible animated series. If you have not checked those out, please do. This is an Image comic run, both from Image Comics, both really great pieces of work. I've read both before. I've read Invincible start to finish, and I've read the first few volumes of Manhattan Projects. But, read along with us so you'll know what we're talking about, and you'll have a lot to say. And, look forward to speaking to you guys again. Till next time, it's your boy Donnie the Dreamer signing off. Class dismissed.